Hello, my lovelies, and welcome to another episode of Oh My Lloyd featuring Miss Lloyd. So today we're going to be looking at quadratic equations and how to find them or create them when you are given the x-intercepts. So remember, x-intercepts are the same as our solutions, they're the same as zeros, they're the same as roots. These are all talking about the same thing, the same part of our parabola. So here, whenever I use or I'm trying to go from my x-intercepts to the quadratic equation, because I use an M&A method, so multiplying to get and adding to get method with my factoring, it comes in handy when going the opposite direction with my students. So we're trying to get an equation that looks like y is equal to our ax squared plus bx plus c. So with my students, because we do the M&A method, I have another little formula for them. So y is equal to a multiplied with x squared minus our sum of our roots times our x, and then adding with the product of our roots. So if you're familiar with the M&A method, this should make a little bit of sense because we're always multiplying to get our end term, adding to get our middle term. And the reason why we have a minus sign here, it's minus the sum, is because when we're solving, we're changing the signs of whatever our factors were in order to solve for our roots or for our x-intercepts for our solutions. So then simple part here is just adding together our x-intercepts for the sum. So I'm adding together my 4 and my negative 2, which will give me a positive 2. And then my product, I'm multiplying them together. So 4 times my negative 2 will give me negative 8. And I'm plugging this into my first section. So I have y is equal to a multiplied with x squared minus that positive 2. Then times x. And then I would have plus my product, which was plus negative 8. Because I have plus negative 8, I'll just put minus 8. So now we don't have the entire situation. We need to figure out what a is. And they've given us a hint as to how to find that by giving us our minimum value. So I know if I have a minimum value, that means I have a lowest value. I have a valley. So this means that my parabola is going to be a happy parabola. So I call it a happy parabola. It's pointing up. It's all positive. If you put little dots in the middle, it kind of looks like a smiley face, at least to me. So minimum value, it has a happy face. This is the lowest point. So my lowest point here is going to be, it's talking about my y value. My x, as it's going up, it's also going out. So it doesn't really have a lowest point for my x value. So we know we're talking about our y. So negative 18 is a y value for this point. I can also figure out what the x value is if I remember that our parabolas are symmetric. So I know that I have one of my zeros at negative 2 and another 0 at positive 4. And this isn't going to be, it's not how it's going to look. It's not proportional. I know that. Negative 18 is not going to be that close to the x-axis, and negative 2 and positive 4 aren't going to be that far away from each other. It's just a visual because I'm a visual person. I'm a visual learner. And so I know my axis of symmetry goes right down the middle here. So if I'm going in between negative 2 and positive 4, we can always do the midpoint formula here just for that x value. So negative 2 plus that 4 divided by 2 will give us a positive 2 over 2, which will give us a positive 1. So 1 is in between negative 2 and positive 4. And so this is going to be a point, an x and y point, that I can now plug into my equation that I have so far and figure out what that a value is. I need an x and a y in order to solve for the variable that I have left. So I'm going to move this up a little bit. I know it's magic, isn't it? And I'm going to plug in that 1 and negative 18 into my equation. So I have negative 18 that they automatically gave me for my y value. And I'm plugging in that positive 1. So 1 quantity squared minus 2 times my 1. And then minus my 8. So 1 squared will give me positive 1. 1 minus 2 will give me negative 1. Negative 1 minus 8 would give me negative 9, so I have negative 18 equal to a times my negative 9. My a and my negative 9 are multiplying, so we would divide that over, and my a would end up being a positive 2. So plugging that into my equation, I have my y is equal to, I now have a positive 2 on the outside, times my x squared minus 2x minus 8, all in my brackets. And I can multiply that 2 in to get my official final, completely done with it equation. So I've got y is equal to 2x squared minus 4x minus 16. And we are done. And so for this next one, you can pause the video if you like. I'm going to do another example based off of a maximum value. So if you feel like you've gotten it, you can pause the video, do it out yourself, and then unpause the video and see what the solution is. Check it with what I have, and probably feel completely amazing about yourself because you're likely to get it correct because, you know, you're awesome. You learned the first one from me. So you came here in the first place. You got some skills, I guess, finding this. All right. So finding the quadratic equation, again, we're doing the same thing. I first need to figure out my sum and my product from my x-intercepts. So my sum, when I add my 3 and my 5 together, will be 8. And then my product, when I multiply, will be a positive 15. And so this time, so I'm going to plug it in. My y is equal to, again, they've given me some extra information, so I know I'm probably going to have an a here. I've got x squared, again, minus my sum, so 8x, plus my product, so that positive 15. And they've told me this time that I have a maximum value. So maximum means this is the highest point it's going to be. So then again, I'm a very visual person, so I have to draw this out. So this is going to be a sad parabola with its maximum point at positive 3, and I know that's my y value. So highest point is talking vertically. And so I also need to put in, if I'm at 3 and 5, and this is going right down the middle, the number in between 3 and 5. I don't really have to do out mathematically, it's going to be 4. So I'm going to do that in a slightly different color so that it's easier to see when I plug it in. So I'm going to plug in my new y value, 3, equal to a multiplied with, I've got my 4 squared, minus 8 times 4. So plugging in that same x value for all my x's, plus my 15. So then now I've got 4 squared is going to give me 16, minus 8 times 4 is going to give me 32. So then 16 minus 32 I know is going to give me negative 16. Negative 16 plus 15 is going to give me negative 1. Which means my a, whenever I divide that negative 1 over, is going to be equal to negative 3. So again, I've got to plug this into that very first equation that we found. So I know I've got negative 3. And for my a, multiplied with x squared minus the 8x plus 15. And lastly, we're going to distribute that negative 3 into everything. So y is equal to negative 3x squared plus 24x. Negative, the negative gives a positive. And then minus 5, and then carry the 1, 45, negative 45. And then we are finished. This is our final product. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have a friend who's struggle busing with a similar type of problem, be sure to share my video. Also, be sure to like it. Leave a comment if you please. If you have a question about another type of problem, be sure to leave a comment and I'll make a video especially for you. Have a wonderful rest of your day.